Hello, welcome to Avenues to College. In this slideshow, we're going to be going over academic integrity and the use of AI in classrooms. This is something we went over in person in an ATC meeting. However, I am recording it now and bringing it to you here so that you can look it over virtually. So when we did our meeting, we opened up with a check-in question, which is, what's something that you've used for school that technically wasn't cheating, but felt like it was? A lot of folks answered things like Grammarly, which is an AI support tool that can check your grammar for you as well as your spelling. Another student had mentioned websites that help you build study guides. Another one was using OpenNote tests for an OpenNote test, even though the teacher said that you could. So those are not examples of cheating, but sometimes they can feel like they are, just because it just makes school a little bit easier. So this was our agenda for the day. We'll be going over some of this, such as what is academic integrity and how AI fits into all of this, and we are going to do Spot the Human. These, if you want to pause, read over them, are some of our community agreements. These are ones that everyone came up with together. These aren't just ones that ATC made up ourselves. You can read them and go over the group expectations. The bottom half are the non-negotiables. Those are to be taken very seriously. There's are no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes about those. Those are always in place and respected no matter what. So diving into academic integrity, who is she? So this can look like something that's in a specific class, or it can be your entire school or college as a whole. Academic integrity is an ethical standard in all schools which requires student work to be authentic and honest. So essentially, schools are demanding that the work you turn in be yours. If you want to cite research to support your argument, totally. That's totally fine. You just have to make sure to credit them. If you quote someone, make sure you give them credit to whoever said the quote. It's just to make sure everyone gets credit for their work. The opposite of this would be academic misconduct. And academic misconduct can look several ways. The first one is cheating. That tends to be what we think of when we think of academic misconduct. So, for example, looking over somebody's shoulder during a test to get the answers is one example. Collusion is our second example, and that's not one many people think of as much when they think of academic misconduct. If you're wondering what that means, it's considered when two or more people are working on an assignment that is only meant for one person. So essentially, if you're doing a science lab and you have someone there who's really helping with you with it, even though you weren't supposed to, that can be considered collusion. Or having someone write an essay or showing you their essay from the same assignment last year and writing things down from it, that is considered collusion because you were expected to do the work by yourself and you got help from somebody else and did not give them credit. The third one is fabrication, and this one tends to be mixed up with plagiarism a little bit. And the difference is you can think of fabrication of I made this up versus plagiarism is I stole that. So when you're writing a paper and you're doing like a research assignment and you want some statistics to support your argument, but you don't know any statistics, or the statistics that you find are against the point you're trying to make, if you decide just you're going to make some up, then that would be considered fabrication. It would be like if I said 1 in 10 people are illiterate. That is not true. I don't know what statistic of people are illiterate. I just simply made that up. If I were to put that on a paper and cite it as true, that would be flagged as fabrication. So plagiarism is similar, but instead of making something up, it is just stealing something. So plagiarism, I stole that. So if you were to find some research that supported an argument that you were making in a paper, and you said that research was research that you conducted yourself, that would be plagiarism. If you don't quote or don't credit the people who did the research, that's plagiarism. If you essentially just take someone's work, don't provide them any sort of credit, within your paper, it implies that these are your ideas, your work specifically, and that is plagiarism. So fabrication, made it up, plagiarism, stole that. So I have 3 different scenarios here, and I want us to look at it and see if it's academic dishonesty. And I'll give you a moment to go over these. So the first one I'll read. It is Reese is writing a paper called Bottom of the Pyramid, Performance-Based Learning and the Social Hierarchy of Dance Moms. To strengthen an argument in their paper, Reese directly quotes Kathy Nesbitt Stein. Reese credits Kathy right before the quote as well as in their citation page. I'll give you a few moments to think for yourself whether this is academic honesty or dishonesty. So what we ended up coming up with as a group was this one showed academic integrity, so academic honesty, because Reese directly quoted Kathy and they're also in their citation page. So Kathy is credited twice in their paper. The second one is Jamie writing a paper called Wanna Be on Top, Bloom's Taxonomy and Performance-Based Learning in America's Next Top Model. Jamie has Reese collaborate with them to write their paper. However, since Jamie did not directly quote Reese, she did not cite Reese as a source in their paper. So I'll give you a minute to kind of consider that one. And so this one, we decided it was pretty nuanced, so we didn't have a specific yes or no. We thought that it could be considered colluding if Reese did a lot of the work for them and they didn't quote Reese at all. It also depends on if Reese didn't really help and they were just brainstorming ideas together, or Jamie was just using Reese as a sounding board for their ideas. That could be considered academic integrity, since they were just kind of talking with Reese over just their ideas, not directly taking any ideas from Reese. So it really kind of depends on the level of collaboration that was in that paper, how much Reese actually contributed to the paper. So things can definitely get very nuanced when you're having people sort of help you and look over your work a bit. If you are unsure if something might be academic dishonesty, I would recommend just checking with your teacher before you do it, or before you, before you get extra help with your paper. I mean, you can always go to the Writing Center as well. There are different tutoring places you can go to receive help, and they can also point you in the direction whether something is academic dishonesty or not. So our final paper, or our final example, is Kian is writing a paper called America's Love Triangle, How Reality TV's Obsession with Pyramids is Capitalist Propaganda. Kian can't find the research paper with the exact statistic they want to use, so they make up a statistic that sounds right. So I will give you a moment to consider that one. So what we came up with for this one is it's academic dishonesty, and we consider it to be fabrication, because even if they had a statistic in mind that they were thinking of, since they didn't have the exact statistic and they just made it up, it's just fabrication. So to kind of recap, the first one was academic honesty, academic integrity. The second one could be colluding depending on how much input or work Reese had contributed to their paper, and also if Jamie had asked their teacher if it was okay if they bounce ideas off a friend. And the final one is just academic dishonesty. It is fabrication. So the next part is, how does AI fit into all of this? AI stands for artificial intelligence. It is software that mimics human thinking to generate text, images, or responses. This is something that people often think of, like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, like Copilot for Microsoft Edge. They also have text chat or text image creators like DALL-E, and chatbots. ChatGPT can be a chatbot, as well as Tollin. So here are some pros and cons we came up with. We also had a larger board with more that we came up with, but here's a couple of the view on here. Pros, we came up, it can clarify confusing material. So if you are rereading something a couple times, or if a teacher has explained something a couple times and it's still not really sinking in, you can use ChatGPT to maybe dissect the material a little bit further to give you a better idea, to help clarify that information. It can help strengthen your wording. If you can write something on your own, put it into AI and ask it if there is parts of your argument that could sound a little stronger. There is also tools to catch grammar mistakes like Grammarly, and it can also recommend resources for areas where you can look for more research and point you in just the right direction. If you are using ChatGPT, however, to strengthen your wording, I would clarify with your professor if that is something you're allowed to do or not. There are cons, however, to AI. It can give you wrong or biased information. It can often give you wrong information that sounds great and they give it to you very confidently, but it could also be wrong. It can also give you biased information. AI tends to learn off of, again, it learns off of humans, it learns off of things on the internet. So it can definitely give biased information based off of biased resources. We in person went over how AI can learn off of materials that are racist or promote stereotypes, and therefore the information you're getting is just not going to be accurate. It can sound smart without saying anything real. They can use a lot of like pretty words and like phrases that all of it just sounds really good, but when you kind of try to look at what it's saying, it's not really saying anything. The third is it removes your personal voice if you copy it word for word. Your teachers really know what your personal voice is, especially if they've seen any of your like writings in the past. A lot of teachers will give you assignments where you just have to write something, while in class, not being able to have access to the internet, specifically so that they can learn a lot more about your own personal voice. So if it removes your personal voice and your teacher notices that, they're definitely going to catch on that you are plagiarizing, which goes into our final one, is they can get you expelled from school. Again, academic integrity is taken very seriously at all colleges and schools, and it can get you expelled. So I'll give you a moment to read over this. This is an academic integrity piece in a syllabus for a grad student. Right, so AI is meant to be more of a support, not a substitute. So it is great for brainstorming ideas. It can explain a difficult topic. It can help you get unstuck when you are just having trouble not understanding information or just kind of not knowing where to go from point A to point B. And it can recommend research directions for you. And in this way, AI is being used as a support tool. However, when it starts to be a substitute, that's when you get academic misconduct, which would be copying and pasting full AI responses. I have seen this myself. It is pretty easy to spot. Even when folks are being clever, there are tools that people can use to scan your work and see if any of it is uncited, if any of it is AI, if it has been copied anywhere. There are definitely tools for this, which we can show you what they look like. Having your AI write your paper for you, again, this is plagiarism. Turning in AI generated work without citation. Again, if your teacher is okay with some AI being involved in your work, it is important that you are going to cite it, and it is important that you check in with your teacher beforehand of what level of AI support that you can use when writing a paper. And the final one is using AI to do your reading or thinking for you. A lot of the meat of what, especially with writing, that your teachers are looking for is original thoughts within it. A lot of what AI will do is kind of go over the readings and then just give you a summary of what the readings were without really diving deeper into more constructive thoughts, or like really kind of looking at what this information is, like not just analyzing it, but what can ideas are coming from this, or how we can apply it to other areas. And that's what your teacher really wants to see from you. And they can really, they want to know what you're taking away from this. They feel that's really important. It's just really important to understand kind of where you're at so that they can help you grow. And I think it's important to consider that, yes, AI can do all your reading and thinking for you, even if you manage to not get caught all the way through school, which highly don't anticipate that. But even if you do and you get your degree and you're out in the workforce now, you're not going to understand how to do your job without AI, because you didn't have to use AI, or you didn't have to figure this out on your own in the past. So it really just sets you up for failure in the long run. So it's important to really take your education seriously and remember why you're there. We're all here because we have a passion and we have something that we want to get out of life. And that's kind of what brought us to college. And so kind of really grounding ourselves in why we're here. AI, just like a tutor, AI should help you grow, not do the work for you. That is a great summary of all the things I just said. So this is something that was included in an actual paper that one of our coaches came across. The bottom part, this article was not written with the assistance of any artificial intelligence technology, including ChatGPT or other support technologies. This is something that we haven't seen in the past, but we found it pretty interesting that it's now being included, which we may be seeing more of this in schools in general, as just a standard practice. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to read 3 writing samples, and I want you to try to both guess the writing level, whether it is a freshman, a junior, or a grad student. I want you to try to figure out if it's real or AI, and how did you know? So I'm going to give you a moment to read this section. Okay, so this work is from a freshman, and I want you to consider if it is AI or not, now that you know that information. Okay, so I can let you know now that it was AI, and there's a couple giveaways. It is a big example of having a lot of good language that doesn't say anything. So we're talking about a book called Wuthering Heights and its impact on social media. And what point would cursive writing teach us about saving a nation? Like the sentence, by combining high impact digital storytelling with a slow reflective process of cursive writing, we can empower youth to reclaim their narratives. Unsure what the reflective process of cursive writing means or has to do with the book Wuthering Heights. but it really just, this is saying nothing, which is part of how a professor would be able to tell if this is you or AI, on top of, again, the tools that they already have. So here's a second one. I'll give you a moment to read it over and to consider what the writing level is, and if it's real or AI. So this work was completed by a grad student, and I'm curious if you can tell me if it is real or AI. So this work is very much real. It was done as a grad student by one of our own coaches, actually, Reese Fryer. Now here is the last one. So this one was done by a junior, and I want you to consider if it is real or AI. So this paper was AI written. There's a couple tells in it being, unlike the first one that was written with AI, it is actually saying something, but it is using a lot of words and language that feel very unnecessary. One example being the part that says their unnamed maternal progenitor. That just means mother. There's no reason to, make it that long. Um, there's just a lot of big words used for the sake of it being, again, big words. I can almost tell you the prompt that they use was probably to summarize Beowulf using big words to sound smart. Um, this is not a great paragraph. It is definitely AI written. Right, and that was just the end of our in-person meeting. We always end the meetings by providing our contact information in case you want to get a hold of anybody. Our coach Kian is out of office for the month of August. So at this time, your best points of contact are myself, Jamie Mick, and Reese Fryer. Thank you for listening and watching this presentation. There will be follow-up materials so that you can earn your hours. Thank you. Goodbye.